Welcome to the You Can Be Unstoppable podcast. My name is Ewelina Szczeblewska, your host and certified hypnotherapist. In this podcast, I will share with you how to tap into the power of your subconscious mind. I intend to share with you how learning how to use the power of your subconscious mind can help you to create a successful and abundant life with ease, how to connect with yourself while fostering a healthy relationship with your body and mind. Tapping into the power of the subconscious mind will help you to learn how to manage your emotions, become more resilient and present in all of your relationships. Self-love and self-worth are the keys to the kingdom of success and abundance, to happy and healthy life on your terms. Hello everyone, and today's guest is wonderful Esther Rappaport, and she's a productivity coach, which I'm sure all of you listeners will enjoy what she's got to say.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Eileen. I'm super excited to be here. And yeah, I've just been really looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you for being here. I'm just going to go straight with the top question that I've got for you. We all have sets of beliefs and stories that we carry on from early on in our years and things that we've picked up along the way. And I'm curious from your perspective as a productivity coach, how those beliefs and stories impact on our confidence, and ultimately that will lead into our productivity, because how we see ourselves really impacts so many different aspects of our lives. So I'm just curious from your perspective, what is the connection between the two?
Oh my gosh, I love that question so much, especially because just yesterday I wrote an email to send out to my list about the biggest thing that doing this work has done for me was improve my confidence. So let me just backtrack a little bit. So most productivity coaches, what they do is they give you productivity tips and then you become more productive. Now the problem is they're giving tips that work for their brain and they don't especially work for yours. And there's something deeper, it's just a band-aid. They're okay, so now instead of planning your day this way, plan your day that way. I don't give you any tips of how to be productive. Instead, what I'm doing is I'm getting to the core of how your brain actually thinks, the cognitive functions, we call them, and then it affects your productivity. So improving my cognitive functions has improved my confidence. Now, back to your questions, what does it have to do with confidence, with the beliefs and stuff? Your cognitive functions, depending how strong they are, right? These thinking skills that are going on in your brain affects your confidence in your life. Because if you have weak cognitive functions and you're always feeling frustrated and I can't do this and because you actually can't, not because you're stupid, but because your cognitive functions are weak. But as you improve your cognitive functions, all of a sudden you see that you could do more things. And what happens? Your confidence goes up and you get to even more things.
Yeah, I like that. And I like what you said, because it's actually approaching the things from the core level at where actually makes the difference.
Exactly. Yeah, you said it really well.
Yeah, because it's the same from my perspective. So I'm a hypnotherapist and NLP master practitioner. So I work with the unconscious mind. I go to the root cause of stuff. I do not work with superficial presenting symptoms, because for the most part, that's what they are. I'm actually going to the core of the problem, and then we can talk about what is that you want.
Yeah, exactly.
So I like what you said, because this is exactly the same principle behind the scenes.
Right.
You're going to the core of what is going to make the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say that everything comes from one of two, any issue you have comes from one of two places, either the cognitive, what I work on, or the emotional, what you work on. So there we go.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. So, but then working from, cognitive level, from your perspective, how do you think then that leads into our emotional resilience? Because I think building this up, it's a process. It doesn't just happen overnight, because you do have to deal with your past wounds and all those emotions that you stuffed so down deep that you probably even forgot that you've got them, in order to build the emotional resilience. But how do you think, specifically, in what terms is emotional resilience helping us in navigating life?
Yes. So I always like to say that the cognitive and the emotional are intertwined. So when one of them is strong, it affects the other one, and one of them is weak, it affects the other one, right? So when you could build emotional resilience by one of two ways, or even better yet, by both ways. So one way is by working through the emotions on what's like from the emotional standpoint, and one is from the cognitive standpoint of how I'm actually going to do it, right? People like to call like the emotional standpoint mindset, just to make it easier. It's a lot more than mindset, but just like for a single, like a simple word to be able to like so group them together, we're just like call it mindset, like how you view the thing, and if you're able to do it, and what's your like beliefs about it, right? Like what's your old stories about it, or your new stories, all that would fall under mindset. And the other thing would be like the actual strategy to be able to have that emotional resilience. Like, okay, I could believe that I have emotional resilience, I can make up these stories, but what am I actually going to do now to make sure? So that's from the cognitive standpoint. So you could improve one of them, your emotional resilience go up, and you improve both of them, and it like skyrockets.
I find it really interesting how we as humans are so different and so the same at the same time.
Yeah.
And
totally.
It's understanding ourselves, and what you said at the very beginning, understanding ourselves at the core. What is going to work for me? And I'm doing similar things with my clients as you do, because I assess them in NLP called a meta modeling, that I need to know where you are coming from, because my idea and model of reality may be very different to yours, and what I think is working for me not necessarily is going to work for you. So imposing my solutions is not necessarily going to work for you. It's actually going to do more damage, because I'm going to further impose or reaffirm the idea, the story that you may have, that you can't change or things don't work for you. So I love what you said, that it's actually identify who we are at the core level, and then, okay, what is the best solution for me?
Exactly. Like people always, let's say, come and tell me, like, how do I improve communication? Or how do I like be productive? Or I'm like, okay, you have this issue, let's say, of communication, but let's go deeper than that. Why are you having problems of miscommunication? Because you might have something else going on inside of you that's causing miscommunication than me or you, or not like a third person, right? So I always want to like get super clear. Okay, what's underneath that? Why are you having miscommunication? Is it because you don't know what you want? Is it because people aren't understanding you? Is it because you can't express yourself? Or is it because like you feel like you're saying it 100 times and there's no, and then you could usually go like another 2 or 3 levels deeper and then understand the actual core of what's actually going on there.
Yeah, and that's so beautifully said, because with communication as well, I find people say like, oh, this person doesn't listen to me, but they do not actually communicate clearly enough,
Exactly.
because they either don't know what is that they want, or they're not actually presenting in a way that the other person can understand, or the other person doesn't listen. It doesn't hear them, because they filter it through their idea of reality. And they cannot see their perspective.
Yes. I always say that when you have a miscommunication, it's either because the person talking has a cognitive deficiency, that means one of their cognitive functions are weak, or because of the other one, the person listening has one, or because of both, right? So if you are, let's say, saying, put this there, then the other person is going to have no clue what you're talking about, and they're going to put it on the wrong shelf. And then later on, you're going to get mad that they put it on the wrong shelf. But you had the cognitive deficiency of not speaking precisely, that obviously they didn't understand, right? So when you understand that, it's not because like there's something wrong here. It's because like there's that cognitive function. You have to like improve the way your brain is thinking, so that way you talk correctly and your communication goes way better.
Yeah, and I love this. And talking about productivity and confidence, to what extent specifically do you think engaging in overthinking and that self-doubt, that negative head chatter that so many of us have, can impact on the process of improving productivity and our confidence? Because they all seem to be very much linked together. When we improve our productivity, our confidence then goes up as well. But when we struggle with self-doubt and that negative head chatter, because they all again seems to be going very much together, what do you think, to what extent does that negatively get in a way?
Yeah, it gets in the way like tons. I think anyone who experienced self-doubt or like not being productive knows exactly that. Now I'm going to go back to what I said before. You're experiencing self-doubt either because you have something emotional going on, some old stories you've been telling yourself, or because you are lacking the strategies, cognitive functions are weak, that it is making it hard for you to go and do what you want. So your brain is just saying, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, because it doesn't have the strategies to be able to do this. So again, you want to identify why are you having the self-doubt? What is causing it? So that way you could go and change it.
And I love what you're saying, because it's exactly where, as a hypnotherapist, that's where I'm always coming from. It's like going back to basics. What is the underlying reason of what's going on? Because so many of us goes to fix the issue, but what we're fixing is the superficial symptom level. And then we like maybe change for a month or two or none at all. And then we go back, revert to where we were, and we're like, it's not working, or this program is not very good. But did you actually went for the underlying core reason, so to speak, like a Jenga, get the bottom piece?
Exactly. I can I share a story, like it's a little bit different, but just to like explain people to this, maybe they'll understand it a bit better. Bit random. So that like my dad recently, he fell off a bike and he became paralyzed. Thank God he's doing much better. But anyways, he has like a peg, like he can't eat properly because of like his situation. So currently he has like a peg. And what do? They give him food, right? Like through like a tube into his body. Now, what happened was he was having tons of cramps and like tons of like gases like in his thing. And then he was constantly in pain and he couldn't sleep. So what do the doctors do? The doctors give medication for the gas. And now the gas, then so he gets the gas, but then and medication for sleeping, and then he can't sleep. Then it causes also that you can't like urinate. So you get another medication that you can't urinate. So what's happening? You're saying, okay, what was my issue? I had gas pain. So I got a medication for gas, but then I can't urinate. So I'm getting a medication for urinate. Instead, what do we do afterwards? We're like, hey, what's the actual problem here? The actual problem here is the food is causing all these issues. So what do? You change the food to healthier food, to food that was like organic. And what happened? His gas went away, his urination issues went away, and his sleeping issues were like solved a lot better because the actual core issue was changed, right? So that's like a bit more of like a tangible like example for you to like go back and see like why is like everything else that I'm trying is not working, and it's just creating another problem. And it's not, or even if it helps, like you said, sometimes it just like helps like for like a month or a short time and thing, but the actual problem is still there. So we're just putting on a band-aid on their actual problem.
Yeah. And it's like putting a plaster and then wondering why are we still where we are? Why are we still having the problem? And sometimes it's actually worse because we've just prolonged what we've been struggling in the first place, where we could have had it all resolved.
Exactly.
And that's what I love about working at the core level with whatever the issue is, not just a presenting symptom. But I'm very interested, what happened in your life that you decided to do what you do and become a productivity coach and work with people? Because I think there's quite an interesting story behind that.
Yes. So when I was in 5th grade, like I was going to tons of tutors and stuff, and my parents decided like, okay, enough of like the band-aids things, right? And they brought in like mom's from Israel, where this method that I do everything based on is called Feuerstein. And in Israel, it's like super popular. So she knew about it. And she brought in this like Professor Feuerstein, his son. He was like too old then to travel, but his son came down and some meteors, and I started getting sessions. And I saw like what it did for me. Like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like, right. Like, I told you, like my confidence went up and everything else. Many years of my life like improved a lot. So it's like, hey, more people need to know about this. So when I was 17, I started getting trained in it. And I started working with all different people with like different age groups. And then I realized like, okay, like people like what stars, like it makes you more efficient and effective, and it helps you become more productive. And basically that's how I got into where I am.
So you've been doing this for quite some time then?
Yes. So like I had like first experience of like at the receiving end of it, right? So I got to like rewire my own brain, use those strategies, do that. And then I was like, okay, this is just so good. Like more people need to know about it, and put it the other way.
Yeah, and I love this because I think so many of us get into those professions and things that we do because it worked for us, and then we try to bring this to wider
more people, right?
public. Exactly, because I didn't know what hypnotherapy was even 3 years ago. You know, it worked for me, and I was like, I love it. I need to learn what is behind the scene. And there's so many scientific research proving scientifically why it works, and that's all I need. It's like so many more people can benefit from what is that we do. But kind of taking aside everything that we said and contradict myself slightly, if you can distill back to what are the top reasons behind that we struggle with productivity, can you distill them to top things that you see time and time again? Is the core root reason behind it, or is very different from person to person?
So there is tops, right? So the reason why someone is not being productive is because they have a cognitive deficiency. So which are the cognitive deficiencies affect productivity? I mean, a lot, there are like 28 of them. So when you mix them together, they create different things. So different ones of them have a bigger effect on different things. So let's say the ones that I'll tell you right now are more common than, let's say, ones that have to do with like miscommunication. That's going to be right, because we use different ones of them for different things. So I'm gonna give you some examples for things that are that affect like productivity. One of them is called clear perception. When it's strong, it's called clear, or when it's weak, it's called blurred perception. It's like you see everything, you get super overwhelmed, you don't know where to start with. You're just like, oh my gosh, I can't do this, right? That is a very common cognitive deficiency. Now, if you're struggling with that, what I usually like to tell people, the first place to like start overcoming that is to create a starting point. You're like, okay, this is the first thing I'm doing. I'm not worrying about the next 30 steps. I'm going to do just the first thing. So if you need to set a table, the first thing you're putting on is a tablecloth. Like literally, like think of it as like the baby first step of what you have to do. And then like, okay, what's the next one? What's the next one? That way you don't get overwhelmed, right? Sometimes the starting point is not like a thing you have to do, but like a place you need to start from. So if you're reading a book, the first page is going to be your starting point. All right.
And I love this because so many of us focuses on like millions minds ahead of us, like the 5 years down the line, and we forget that we just need to concentrate on the first number one.
Exactly. If we do this, then like your brain is going to start like becoming stronger, and it will be way easier for you to do like the 5 years down the line thing, right? That's one of them. Another thing that is super common that people struggle with productivity is obviously time. That one, the brain understanding the concept of time. So time is a very abstract concept, and the brain struggles to understand it, like especially people with ADHD or things like that. But it's possible. You could train your brain to understand the concept of time, right? Because like what's right now is already in the past.
Yeah.
Right? So some of the things that I like to tell people who struggle with time is first get your brain to understand tasks that you do often, how long it actually takes you. So you think a shower takes you 15 minutes and you're going to plan to take a shower 15 minutes before you have to go to your meeting, but it actually takes you 20. So you just need and then like you're wondering why you're always running late and why you can't, right? So for like a week, make yourself crazy. Yeah, it's gonna like annoy you for a bit, but it's worth it. Make yourself crazy and write down the things that you do very often and how long it takes you. Obviously, some days your showers are gonna take you 12 minutes and some days 17, but the average time. So that way your brain, first of all, knows how long to plan for each thing, but also begins understanding the concept of time, right? Another thing to help you with time is like put up like big calendars, like of the month, like of what you're doing. So it sees like the big picture, what's happening this month. And also like the little days, like plans ahead. Okay, so I have 7 days until I have this meeting. And right, like also, again, just to train your brain to understand the concept of time. Clear perception, time. Another one that is super common that affects productivity is blocking. Blocking is like when you like feel a wall in your brain and you're just like, I can't do this. Like I'm stuck. I want to do this, but like I can't do this and I'm stuck, right? So the opposite of blocking is persevering, obviously. And one of the things that helps a lot with blocking is developing that growth mindset of understanding that like, okay, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fail. It's okay, like if I don't know what to do, but like I'm going to push through and I'm going to work this out. So if you find yourself, or even if not, and you want to be like a growing person and you want to really learn things and whatever it is, then develop that growth mindset of understanding that like, it's okay to make mistakes. It's just a learning experience, right? It's like, it's okay if I fail because it's a learning experience, and constantly be learning, constantly be developing yourself.
And I love this because that goes into a concept of growth mindset. You know, we can absolutely change and evolve, and we don't have to put up with the way we are because we can absolutely adapt and change. So I love what you said, and I can see why you say this is a kind of a common thing, and like the first thing that you mentioned, because I can see this often with my clients as well. They concentrate on this bigger picture, and that's where the overwhelm comes in, rather than says, okay, what is the very first thing, step or two, that I need to concentrate? What is that I need to do today? And then what's the next step and the next step? Because when we think about the 20 steps ahead, that's when it's like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to do it. Suddenly this thing becomes huge. It's like this monster that grows. And surprise, surprise, you feel overwhelmed.
Exactly.
So I'm absolutely not surprised that this is one of the things that from your practice, this is what you see, because that's I can see as well from other side of
yeah, exactly, right? They work so well because it's like two sides of the same coin. So
it does, and absolutely impacts, because then it will absolutely affect your confidence because you do not achieve the thing that you want. You've got this goal that you haven't achieved, or you've got this thing, you went to university, or you're looking for a job and it's just not happening for you because you're trying to tackle this in too big of a chunks, parts, rather than break it down into smaller bits, because that's where the overwhelm disappears. So I absolutely love it. And the other two that you mentioned as well, I can see why that is one of the most common. So then again, taking this, and I know we've discussed that everyone's very different, but if you could, for the listeners, come up with 2 or 3 top things from your perspective that you see, time and time again, is the most common things that you see, you could advise them how to improve their productivity on a daily basis.
Like specific things to...
Yeah, like specific things, anything that you can advise for someone that wants
to be productive.
Yeah, wants to be productive. And I know that, everyone is different, but if you could come up with something that could work for most of us.
Yeah. So one thing that like made a massive difference to my productivity is actually something that I started doing in high school and I still do today, is every single day I plan my day the night before. Now, you might be struggling with this if you have any of the previous cognitive things we spoke about or anything else, right? If you're struggling with time, then when you plan your day, you're going to have a hard time planning. But just get yourself into it, start planning, and then notice where you're struggling so you know what to also work on, right? Just because you have a cognitive deficiency doesn't mean that like you should never again be doing that until that cognitive deficiency is fixed. Like don't like label yourself and make yourself like disabled and incapable of doing certain things. So plan your day the night before is super, super helpful. Obviously, things change and like you can't always. I actually like to do sometimes, like, let's say midday, like, especially like my day really changed and it wasn't like what I thought it would be, like, I'll just like readjust things. And so that way I could actually follow my plan and follow it through. Some people also like to plan their day in the morning. That's okay. Just do it what works for you. So that way, like, again, it's a really big thing. Work with your brain, not against it. So you don't have to say, okay, I'm not planning my day because like I can never know the night before what I'm gonna do the next day. Think about your life, think about your situation, about your brain, and how are you going to take this type of thing and make it work for your brain. That's the first thing I could say about being productive. Another thing that's really good to help with productivity is to add what's called white space in your day. Now, this is only works for people who like are getting things done. Meaning if you're ready, if you like wasting your whole day and you're just like sitting on the couch and doing nothing, there's like no point in this because you think, but if you're like actually made your plan and you're getting things done, but you're still like not being as productive as you want to be, white space is where you leave blank spaces either between each task or just like 1 hour at a certain point during your day where you don't plan for anything. This gives you time to number one, if something goes over time, then you have that white space to go and do it. Or if you finished it, which hopefully the goal is, you give yourself, your brain, a space to relax and to do something fun, something that you like to do. You like to read, you like to hang out with your, like spend time with your kids, like extra, right? Like besides for what you're planning. And it just like gives you time to like recenter and get back to it. So if you're going to do like the hour, I usually recommend doing it like before an important meeting or something. So that way, like you'll come to that important task that you have to do or something on time because you're not running late from the thing before and you've regrounded yourself and you're ready to go into it.
I love them. That really good tips. I think quite a few people can use them. And as you say, make them work for you. So whether that's the night before, first thing in the morning, and adapt and twist and change, that it works actually for you. Because I like to do it in the morning.
Yeah, like there's no right way. It's like literally how it's better for you.
Yeah, it's like the night before just doesn't work for me. I like it to do first thing in the morning. So it's again, it's like I do it just adapt it to me. So it's like don't take it literally what we just said. Just adapt it and twist it, and that works for you. Last question. So I talk about being unstoppable, and this podcast is titled "You Can Be Unstoppable." What would you say are the top 3 tips you could give the listeners to embrace that unstoppable version of themselves a bit more every day?
Yes. So number 1 is take risks. Okay. Probably heard it a lot, but like people don't actually do it. Take the risk. Okay. One of 2 things are going to happen. Either it's going to work out like amazing. It worked out. Worst case, it was a learning experience, right? It comes back to that growth mindset. So it like, you didn't die, right? Obviously, if it's something that like you might actually die, like think about it again. But like in general, just go and do it. These small things that like make a massive difference, go and do it. And like, what's going to happen? Nothing. Or amazing things, like either way. So don't worry so much. That's number 1. Number 2, always be learning and try to like fill your ears, right? Because not always like, so like I like to tell people, or used to tell people, like spend time with people who are always learning, but not always could you like be in contact with them or like spend time with them because like your family members aren't, your friends aren't. So what you could do is the people you listen to, the podcast, right? Like you're listening to this podcast, you're learning more things. Listen to people, watch things that like were actually not just like entertaining. It could also be entertaining, but especially learning because it will like give you the motivation to like think bigger and like do more things and experience life more. So that's the second one. The third thing I would say to make yourself unstoppable, like to have your mind thinking about unstoppable things is like a bit of a contradiction. Like I'm gonna tell you 2 things, but like it empowers you so much. Is what you want to do is you want to like write down your goals every day, but you want to write down your goals in 2 different ways. One thing, you want to write down your goal for like the big ultimate vision of what you want, like the massive thing that you're like dreaming, like dream big. Doesn't cost more to dream bigger, dream massive. But then at the same time, you're like, oh my God, it's never going to happen. So right underneath that big, huge dream that you wrote, write one tiny goal that's going to happen this week, like one tiny goal that's going to happen this week, that's going to help you lead towards that big goal. So you're constantly getting little bits of like dopamine. At the same time, you're working to your massive, massive, unstoppable goal. Like when I'm talking about tiny, I'm talking about, like we said before, baby steps tiny.
Yeah.
So that way your brain like understands it, but you're actually doing something, because baby step plus baby step plus baby steps gets you to your massive goal.
And I love this, because I think that's what so many of us get stuck, that we don't understand that those teeny tiny steps adds up over time and create a bigger goal. And for the most part, we didn't find ourselves where we are because there was a massive things. For the most part, obviously it happens, but for the most part, because something big happened, it was the teeny tiny steps that we did over time towards what we do not want. And we become less and less productive, less and less confident, because there were tiny steps every day we were taking or not taking that got us where we are today. And it's those teeny tiny steps that are going to get us that big goal.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
we want.
Exactly.
And it's so much more easier, so much more tangible, and easy on the brain as well. And yes, there are possible massive shifts either way, but that's not the case for most of us.
Yeah, usually what I find, like from personal experience and like from speaking to people, the massive shifts aren't going to happen in like when you just run your everyday life. You get up, you go to work, you come home, right? It's going to happen like when you immerse yourself in an experience. So if you could go to a live event or like meet someone like incredible or something like that, that's when like the massive shift is happening. And you want to like make sure, another thing to be unstoppable is to go to these type of things and purposely put yourself in these type of experiences. But you can't do that every day, because by the end of the day, it's not practical for everyday life. So have those things at the right time, but doesn't mean that the rest of your life you just have to be on hold. Like continue moving a little bit forward every day.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. Because like having this couch life, as I say, you go to work and you come back and you just do the same old thing every single day. Well, I am willing to bet not much is going to change 5 years down the line. But when you put yourself out there and, as you said, toasters, take those risks, do those events, do those trainings, go out and meet people and surround yourself with growth mindset people who can teach you something. That's what is going to make those shifts possible.
Exactly.
Love it. And I think this is a perfect way to end the conversation on a high.
Yes, I'm feeling it. Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Well, thank you very much for having, for being here. And I hope that your dad is going to feel a lot better soon.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story with us. And yeah, see everyone next week.
Yes, thank you, Evelina. I have to put that in.
Thank you for listening. If you found value in this podcast, I would like to ask you to leave a positive review explaining how this episode helped you to improve your life. I ask you to do this because this will help other people to improve their lives as well. Share and spread the love all around you. Raise your vibrations to improve your life. If you would like more transformational content like this, connect with me on Instagram. You can find a link in the description of this podcast, and I'll see you over in the next episode.